My name is Margaret Richardson and I am 52 years old. What I'm about to tell you happened 3 months ago, but I still can't believe my own daughter could betray me so completely. I had spent 18 months planning what was supposed to be the wedding of her dreams, an $80,000 celebration that would have made any bride feel like royalty. But she had no idea what was coming when she decided to humiliate me in the most cruel way possible. It was a Tuesday morning in April when I received the email that would change our relationship forever. I was in my home office in Westchester County, New York, reviewing the final invoices from the wedding vendors. The wedding was just 2 weeks away and I was feeling that familiar mixture of excitement and exhaustion that comes with planning such a massive event. My phone chimed with a new email notification. The sender was my daughter Jessica, age 27, and the subject line read "Important Wedding Update, please read immediately." I opened it expecting maybe a last-minute guest list change or a request about the seating arrangements. Instead, I found 6 paragraphs that would shatter my heart and ignite a fury I didn't know I possessed. Mom, after careful consideration with David and his family, we've decided that it would be best if you didn't attend the wedding. I know this seems sudden, but there have been too many conflicts and disagreements throughout the planning process. David's mother has been much more supportive and understanding of our vision, and we think it's better this way. We'll pay you back for the expenses eventually. Please don't make this harder than it already is. Jessica. I read it 3 times before the words fully registered. My own daughter had uninvited me from her wedding. By email. After I had paid for absolutely everything. But here's what Jessica didn't know. I had been documenting every single transaction, every conversation and every promise for the past 18 months. She had no idea what was coming. Let me take you back to October 2022, when Jessica first got engaged to David Hartwell. I remember the call like it was yesterday. She was crying with joy, telling me how David had proposed during a weekend trip to Martha's Vineyard. I was genuinely happy for her. Jessica had always been my pride and joy, my only child after her father and I divorced when she was 12. "Mom, I want you to help me plan the most amazing wedding," she had said during that phone call. "Money is no object. I want it to be perfect." At the time, I was working as a senior financial advisor at Morgan Stanley, making $180,000 a year. I had worked my way up from a junior analyst position over 15 years, and I was finally at a place in my career where I could afford to give my daughter the wedding she deserved. Her father, my ex-husband Robert, had remarried and started a new family. He had made it clear that his financial priorities were with his new wife and their twin boys. "Don't worry, sweetheart," I told Jessica. "We'll make it absolutely perfect." What I didn't tell her was that I had been saving for her wedding since she was in high school. I had a separate investment account that I called Jessica's Future. It had grown to $95,000 over the years through careful investing and consistent contributions. The planning began immediately. Jessica wanted an autumn wedding at the Meadowbrook Country Club in Long Island, one of the most prestigious venues in the area. The venue alone cost $35,000 for a Saturday in October. But I didn't hesitate. I put down the deposit that very week. Over the following months, the expenses mounted quickly. Venue and catering $35,000. Photography and videography $8,500. Wedding dress from Vera Wang $4,200. Flowers and decorations $7,800. Band and DJ $6,500. Wedding cake $1,200. Invitations and stationery $800. Transportation $1,500. Hair and makeup $2,000. Rehearsal dinner $4,500. Miscellaneous expenses $8,000. Total $80,000. I paid for every single item with my own money, using a combination of my savings, the wedding fund, and yes, even taking out a small loan against my 401k. Jessica never asked about the financial strain. She simply expected it to be handled. But here's what made it worse. Throughout those 18 months, Jessica's future mother-in-law, Patricia Hartwell, began inserting herself into every decision. Patricia was a socialite from the Upper East Side whose husband owned a chain of luxury car dealerships. She had money, connections, and most importantly, strong opinions about how her son's wedding should look. At first, I tried to be accommodating. When Patricia suggested changing the color scheme from dusty rose to navy and gold, I agreed and paid the additional $2,000 for new linens and decorations. When she insisted that the band wasn't sophisticated enough and recommended a more expensive one, I covered the $1,500 difference. When she decided the wedding cake needed to be from a more prestigious bakery, I paid an extra $400. But Patricia's involvement went far beyond suggesting vendors. She began referring to it as David and Jessica's wedding in a way that clearly positioned herself as the primary mother figure. She would call Jessica directly to discuss wedding details, bypassing me entirely. She would show up to vendor appointments unannounced and make decisions without consulting me, the person paying for everything. The final straw came 3 weeks before the wedding. Patricia had decided that the rehearsal dinner needed to be more elegant and moved it from the charming Italian restaurant I had booked to an upscale steakhouse in Manhattan. The cost difference was $2,000, which she expected me to cover. "Jessica, this is getting out of hand," I told my daughter during what would be our last face-to-face conversation. "I've been nothing but accommodating, but your future mother-in-law is making decisions about a wedding that I'm paying for." "Mom, you're being dramatic," Jessica replied. "Patricia just wants everything to be perfect for David. She has better connections and more experience with high-end events." "I have experience too, Jessica. I've been planning events for my clients for years. And more importantly, I'm your mother." But Patricia understands the social dynamics better. David's family moves in different circles. That's when I realized what was really happening. My daughter was embarrassed by me. She thought Patricia's old money connections made her more suitable to plan a sophisticated wedding than her working mother who had earned every dollar through years of hard work. I should have seen the email coming. But nothing could have prepared me for the cruelty of being uninvited to my own daughter's wedding that I had spent $80,000 to create. Jessica had no idea what was coming. What Jessica didn't know was that I had been meticulously documenting everything from day one. As a financial advisor, I had learned the hard way that every transaction, every agreement, and every conversation needed to be recorded and organized. I had applied this same methodology to wedding planning. I had a dedicated folder on my computer called Jessica's Wedding with subfolders for vendor contracts with every single contract signed and dated, payment records including bank statements, credit card statements, and check copies, email communications with screenshots of every email exchange, text messages with screenshots of every text conversation, phone call logs with notes from every phone conversation with vendors, and meeting notes with detailed notes from every planning meeting. But most importantly, I had been recording my phone conversations with Jessica. New York is a one-party consent state, which means I could legally record phone conversations as long as I was a participant. I had started doing this after the third time Jessica had denied agreeing to something we had clearly discussed. I had 47 recorded phone conversations spanning 18 months. In these recordings, Jessica had repeatedly thanked me for paying for the wedding, promised to pay me back someday when she and David were more established, asked me to cover additional expenses, expressed gratitude for my financial sacrifice, confirmed that I would be walking her down the aisle since her father had declined, and discussed her excitement about our mother-daughter dance. I also had text message conversations where Jessica had sent me vendor recommendations with the message, "Can you handle the payment for this one too?" She had thanked me with "You're the best mom ever" after I covered Patricia's expensive changes. She had confirmed wedding details including my role in the ceremony, and she had sent me photos of her dress with "Can't wait for you to see me walk down the aisle." But the most damaging evidence was an email Jessica had sent me just 2 months earlier. "Mom, I can't tell you how grateful I am for everything you're doing for my wedding. I know $80,000 is a huge amount of money, and I promise David and I will pay you back over time. You're giving me the wedding of my dreams and I'll never forget this sacrifice. I love you so much, Jessica." She had put it in writing. The gratitude, the promise to pay me back, and most importantly, the acknowledgement of the $80,000 amount. But I had even more than financial documentation. I had been keeping detailed notes about Patricia's behavior and Jessica's responses. I had documented every time Patricia had overruled my decisions, every time Jessica had chosen Patricia's opinion over mine, and every time I had been made to feel like a second-class participant in my own daughter's wedding planning. The day I received the uninvitation email, I spent 4 hours organizing all of this documentation into a comprehensive file. I printed out bank statements, vendor contracts, email chains, and text message screenshots. I created a timeline that showed exactly how $80,000 had been spent over 18 months. Then I started making phone calls. The first call I made was to my lawyer, Michael Chin, who had handled my divorce 15 years earlier. Michael specialized in family law and had seen every type of family drama imaginable. "Margaret, this is one of the most clear-cut cases of financial exploitation I've seen," Michael said after reviewing my documentation. "Your daughter has what's called unjust enrichment. She accepted $80,000 in wedding expenses from you under the premise that you would be participating in the wedding. By uninviting you, she has fundamentally breached the implied agreement." "What are my options?" I asked. "Well, you have several. You could sue for the return of the $80,000 plus interest and legal fees. You could file for an injunction to prevent the wedding from proceeding using vendors you've paid for. Or," Michael paused, "you could handle this more strategically." "What do you mean?" "You paid the vendors directly, correct? The contracts are in your name?" "Yes, every single one." "Then you have the power to cancel everything. The vendors are contracted with you, not your daughter. Legally, she has no standing to prevent you from canceling services you've paid for." I felt a surge of power that I hadn't experienced in months. "Walk me through this." "Here's what we can do," Michael explained. "We can send a formal legal notice to Jessica and David stating that due to the breach of your implied agreement, specifically your exclusion from the wedding you funded, you are exercising your contractual rights to cancel all vendor services. We give them 48 hours to either reinstate your invitation or make alternative arrangements. And if they don't, then you start making phone calls to vendors. Every caterer, florist, photographer, and musician has a contract with you. You have the legal right to cancel these services, especially since the wedding is still 2 weeks away." But Michael wasn't finished. "There's more, Margaret. Since you paid for everything, you likely have significant leverage over the venue as well. The Meadowbrook Country Club contract is in your name, paid with your money. You could transfer the reservation to a different event, maybe a small celebration for your real friends and family members who have supported you through this process." The plan was brilliant, but I wanted to give Jessica one final chance to do the right thing. The second call I made was to my sister Helen, who lived in Connecticut. Helen had always been my closest confidant, and she had watched the wedding planning drama unfold over the past 18 months. "Helen, I need you to be honest with me," I said. "Am I overreacting?" "Margaret, are you kidding me? Your daughter uninvited you from her wedding by email after you spent your life savings on it. If anything, you're underreacting." "I'm thinking about canceling everything." "Good. She needs to learn that actions have consequences. You've spent 18 months being walked all over by that girl and her future mother-in-law. It's time to show them what happens when you bite the hand that feeds you." Helen's support gave me the confidence I needed for the third call, to my friend Diana, who was also Jessica's godmother. Diana had known Jessica since birth and had watched our relationship deteriorate during the wedding planning. "Diana, I need to ask you something, and I need you to be completely honest," I said. "Has Jessica said anything to you about not wanting me at her wedding?" There was a long pause. "Margaret, I didn't want to tell you this, but Jessica called me last month. She said she was worried that you were going to embarrass her at the wedding. She was concerned that you didn't understand the social expectations of David's family circle." My heart sank. "She said I would embarrass her?" "She said Patricia had been coaching her on proper wedding etiquette for sophisticated events, and that she was worried you might not fit in." "Diana, I've been planning high-end client events for 15 years. I know how to behave at sophisticated gatherings. I know that, and I told her that. But Margaret, I think she's been completely manipulated by David's mother. Patricia has convinced her that you're not suitable for their social circle." That conversation confirmed what I had suspected. This wasn't just about wedding planning disagreements. This was about class and status. Patricia had convinced my daughter that her working mother wasn't good enough for the Hartwell family wedding. The fourth call I made was to Jessica herself. I wanted to give her one final opportunity to reconsider. The call went straight to voicemail, which wasn't surprising since she had been avoiding my calls since sending the email. "Jessica, it's your mother. I received your email and I'm deeply hurt by your decision. However, I want to give you 48 hours to reconsider. If you don't reinstate my invitation to the wedding I've paid $80,000 for, I will be forced to take legal action to protect my financial interests. Please call me back. I love you, but I won't be disrespected like this." I also sent her a text message. "Jessica, please call me. We need to discuss this before I take further action. You have 48 hours. No response. The fifth and final call was to Patricia Hartwell herself. If she was going to insert herself into every aspect of the wedding planning, she could deal with the consequences too. "Patricia, this is Margaret Richardson. I need to speak with you about Jessica's decision to uninvite me from the wedding. Oh, Margaret, Patricia said in her most condescending tone. I think this is for the best. The wedding should be a harmonious celebration and there's been so much tension. Patricia, I've paid $80,000 for this wedding. Every vendor, every service, every detail has been paid for with my money. Well, yes, but Jessica and David are young and will pay you back eventually. This is really about what's best for their special day. No, Patricia, this is about respect and basic human decency. I've been nothing but accommodating to your demands and changes, and now I'm being excluded from the celebration I've funded. Margaret, I think you're being dramatic. Sometimes parents need to take a step back and let their children make their own decisions. That's when I delivered the line that would haunt Patricia for weeks. Patricia, you're absolutely right. It's time for me to make my own decisions too. You have no idea what's coming. What do you mean? You'll find out soon enough. Business is business. I hung up the phone and immediately called Michael Chen. Michael, I want to proceed with the legal action. Draft the letter and send it today. Are you sure, Margaret? Once we do this, there's no going back. I'm sure. Jessica and Patricia think they can humiliate me and steal my money without consequences. They had no idea what was coming. Michael Chen worked quickly. By 5 p.m. that same day, a formal legal notice was hand-delivered to both Jessica's apartment and David's family home. The letter was professional but devastating. Notice of breach of implied contract and demand for remedy. To Jessica Richardson and David Hartwell. Our client, Margaret Richardson, has retained our services regarding the breach of an implied contract related to wedding services she has funded. Over the past 18 months, Margaret Richardson has paid $80,000 for wedding services for your October 14, 2023 wedding celebration. These payments were made with the express understanding that Margaret Richardson would participate in the wedding as mother of the bride. On April 18, 2023, Jessica Richardson sent an email uninviting Margaret Richardson from the wedding celebration, fundamentally breaching the implied agreement under which the $80,000 was provided. Margaret Richardson demands that her invitation to the wedding be immediately reinstated, or in the alternative, that you arrange alternative funding for all wedding services by October 12, 2023. If this matter is not resolved within 48 hours, Margaret Richardson will exercise her contractual rights to cancel all vendor services, as she is the named party on all service contracts. Please be advised that we have comprehensive documentation including bank records, vendor contracts, email communications, and recorded phone conversations supporting our client's position. This matter can be resolved amicably with the immediate reinstatement of Richardson's invitation. Failure to respond will result in the immediate cancellation of all wedding services. Sincerely, Michael Chen, Esquire, Chen & Associates, Family Law. I also sent copies of the letter to Patricia Hartwell and to David's father, Richard Hartwell. If they wanted to play family politics, everyone could be involved in the consequences. The response came faster than I expected. At 7:30 p.m. my phone rang. It was Jessica and she was furious. Mom, what the hell is this letter? You sent a lawyer after me? Jessica, I gave you an opportunity to call me back and discuss this reasonably. You chose to ignore me. You can't cancel my wedding. That's insane. Actually, I can. Every vendor contract is in my name. I paid for every service. Legally, it's my event that I was allowing you to use. But Mom, this is my wedding day. No, Jessica. This is an $80,000 party that I paid for and was subsequently uninvited from. If you want to have your wedding day, you need to either invite me or find another way to pay for it. We can't afford $80,000. You know that. Then you should have thought of that before humiliating me. There was a long pause and I could hear David in the background saying something. Then Jessica came back on the line. Mom, Patricia says you're being unreasonable and vindictive. Patricia can say whatever she wants. She's not the one who paid for this wedding. You have 48 hours to make a decision, Jessica. After that, I start canceling vendors. You wouldn't actually do that. Try me. I hung up the phone. Within 5 minutes, Patricia Hartwell was calling me. Margaret, this is absolutely ridiculous. You're going to ruin your daughter's wedding over hurt feelings? Patricia, this isn't about hurt feelings. This is about $80,000 in basic respect. We can work something out. Maybe you could attend the ceremony but not the reception? Well, I was invited to the entire celebration when I agreed to pay for it. I want my full invitation reinstated, or I want alternative arrangements made for funding. Margaret, be reasonable. The wedding is in 2 weeks. It's impossible to find that kind of money. Then you should have thought of that before encouraging my daughter to uninvite me. I never told her to uninvite you. Patricia, I have recordings of phone conversations where Jessica specifically mentions your opinion that I wouldn't fit in with your social circle. Don't lie to me. There was dead silence on the other end of the phone. You recorded phone calls? I'm a financial advisor, Patricia. I document everything. And in New York, I only need one party's consent to record phone conversations. That's manipulative. No, Patricia. What's manipulative is spending 18 months convincing my daughter that her mother isn't good enough for your family while I pay for everything. What's manipulative is encouraging her to uninvite me from the wedding I funded. Margaret, please. Let's work this out like adults. I tried to work it out like adults. I called Jessica multiple times after receiving her email. I sent her a text message. I was ignored. So now we're working it out like business people. You have 48 hours. And if we don't comply, then I make a phone call and your son's wedding disappears. I hung up on Patricia too. For the first time in 18 months, I felt like I had control over the situation. But they still had no idea what was coming. The 48-hour deadline created exactly the kind of pressure I had hoped for. Over the next 2 days, I received a flurry of phone calls, text messages, and emails from various members of both families trying to convince me to be reasonable. David's father, Richard Hartwell, called me on Wednesday morning. Margaret, I understand you're upset, but don't you think canceling the wedding is a bit extreme? Richard, I'm not canceling a wedding. I'm canceling an $80,000 party that I paid for and was subsequently excluded from. But Jessica is your daughter. Surely family is more important than money. You're absolutely right, Richard. That's exactly why I'm so disappointed that my daughter chose to prioritize Patricia's opinions over her relationship with her mother. Look, what if we split the cost? My wife and I could cover half of the expenses going forward. Richard, the expenses have already been paid. I'm not looking for reimbursement at this point. I'm looking for basic respect and common decency. What if Jessica apologizes? An apology would be a start, but I need my invitation to be fully reinstated. I need to be included in all the family photos, the processional, and all the celebrations I funded. I'll talk to the kids. But the apology never came. Instead, I received a series of increasingly desperate text messages from Jessica. Mom, please don't do this. I know I hurt you, but we can fix this after the wedding. Mom, David's whole family is flying in from California. You can't cancel everything now. Mom, I'm begging you. I'll do anything to fix this, but please don't ruin my wedding day. Mom, Patricia says she's sorry for interfering. Can we please work this out? What struck me about these messages was that none of them included an actual apology from Jessica herself, and none of them mentioned reinstating my invitation. She wanted me to cancel my legal action, but she wasn't willing to address the underlying problem. I also received a text message from David. Mrs. Richardson, I know things got complicated with the wedding planning, but Jessica loves you. Can we please find a way to work this out? I don't want to start my marriage with family drama. I responded, David, I love Jessica too. That's why I'm so hurt that she chose to exclude me from the wedding I've paid for. If you want to start your marriage without family drama, maybe you should convince your fiancé to treat her mother with respect. But the most interesting communication came from Patricia herself. She sent me a long email on Wednesday evening. Margaret, I want to apologize for any misunderstandings during the wedding planning process. I never intended to interfere with your relationship with Jessica or to make you feel excluded. I think there have been miscommunications on all sides, and perhaps we all could have handled things better. Jessica is nervous about her wedding day and may have made some poor decisions under stress. I'm hoping we can resolve this situation amicably. Would you be willing to meet with me tomorrow to discuss a solution that works for everyone? Sincerely, Patricia. I showed the email to my sister Helen, who laughed out loud. Margaret, she's terrified. She knows that if you cancel this wedding, she's going to be the one who has to explain to all her Upper East Side friends why her son's wedding was canceled 2 weeks beforehand. He should be terrified. She spent 18 months undermining me and now she's facing the consequences. Are you actually going to go through with it? Helen, I've reached the point where I have nothing left to lose. Jessica has made it clear that she values Patricia's opinion more than our relationship. If that's her choice, then she can live with the consequences. What about your relationship with Jessica long term? What relationship? She uninvited me from her wedding by email after I spent my life savings on it. She chose Patricia over me. There's no relationship left to salvage. But deep down I was hoping that Jessica would come to her senses before the deadline expired. I was hoping she would call me, apologize sincerely, and ask me to be part of her wedding day. I was hoping that 18 months of sacrificing for her wedding would mean something. The deadline was Thursday at 5 p.m. At 4:55 p.m., I received a final text message from Jessica. Mom, I can't uninvite David's family and friends to make room for you. The guest list is set. I'm sorry you're hurt, but I can't change the plans now. Please don't ruin my wedding day. She still didn't get it. She thought this was about guest list logistics. She didn't understand that this was about basic respect and acknowledgement of my sacrifice. At exactly 5 p.m. I called Michael Chin. Michael, they didn't comply with the demand. I want to proceed with canceling the vendors. Margaret, are you absolutely sure? Once we start this process, there's no going back. I'm sure. They had no idea what was coming. I'll start making the phone calls. But I stopped him. Actually, Michael, I want to make the calls myself. I want them to hear it directly from me. I started with the venue. The Meadowbrook Country Club had been the most expensive single expense at $35,000, and they would be the most complicated to cancel since the wedding was just 11 days away. Good morning, this is Margaret Richardson. I have a reservation for October 14th for the Richardson-Hartwell wedding. Yes, Miss Richardson. We're so excited for your daughter's big day. Is everything on track? Actually, I need to cancel the event. There was a pause. Cancel. Miss Richardson, the wedding is in 11 days. We've already begun food preparation and staff scheduling. I understand the timing is problematic, but I need to cancel due to circumstances beyond my control. May I ask what happened? The bride has decided to exclude me from the wedding, and since I'm the one who paid for the venue, I'm exercising my right to cancel. Oh my, Miss Richardson, I'm so sorry. This is unusual. Let me get my manager. After a brief hold, the manager came on the line. Miss Richardson, this is David Mueller, the events manager. I understand you want to cancel the Richardson-Hartwell wedding? That's correct. I paid for the event, the contract is in my name, and I'm canceling due to breach of our family agreement. Miss Richardson, I have to tell you, this is the first time in 20 years that we've had a mother of the bride cancel her daughter's wedding. Our cancellation policy requires 14 days' notice for full refund, but given the unusual circumstances, I'm authorized to refund $30,000 of your $35,000 deposit. That's acceptable. Please proceed with the cancellation. Ma'am, would you like us to inform the bride about the cancellation, or will you be handling that communication? I'll handle it. Please just process the cancellation and send me the refund confirmation. The second call was to the caterer, Elegant Affairs Catering. This is Margaret Richardson calling about the Richardson-Hartwell wedding on October 14th. Hi Margaret. We're all set for Saturday. The menu is finalized and we've ordered all the specialty ingredients. I'm calling to cancel the catering service. Cancel. Margaret, the wedding is in 11 days. We've already ordered the food and scheduled the staff. I understand, but I need to cancel due to family circumstances. Margaret, our cancellation policy requires 2 weeks' notice. The best I can do is refund 60% of your payment, which would be about $4,200 out of your $7,000 total. That's fine. Please process the cancellation. Margaret, can I ask what happened? We've been working on this wedding for 18 months. My daughter decided to uninvite me from the wedding I paid for. Oh no, Margaret, I'm so sorry. That's terrible. You know what? Let me talk to my manager. Given the circumstances, I think we can do better than 60%. The third call was to the photographer, James Morrison Photography. Hi Margaret. I'm so excited about Jessica's wedding. I've been reviewing the shot list and timeline. James, I need to cancel the photography services. Cancel. Margaret, the wedding is next week. What happened? Jessica uninvited me from the wedding, and I can't justify spending $8,500 on photos of an event I'm not invited to attend. Margaret, that's horrible. I'm so sorry. Look, my cancellation policy is strict, but given what you've told me, I'm going to refund your full payment. No mother should have to pay for photos of a wedding she's been excluded from. James, you don't have to do that. Yes, I do. I have a daughter too, and if she ever treated me like that, I'd be heartbroken. Consider it my small way of supporting you through this difficult time. The fourth call was to the florist, Blooms and Blossoms. Margaret, I was just working on the centerpiece designs for Jessica's wedding. I'm calling to cancel the floral services. Cancel? But we're delivering everything on Friday. After I explained the situation, the florist was equally supportive. Margaret, I'm refunding your full $7,800 payment. What your daughter did is unconscionable. One by one, I called every single vendor. The band gave a full refund of $6,500. The wedding cake baker provided a full refund of $1,200. The transportation company refunded $1,500. The hair and makeup team refunded $2,000. The invitation designer had no refund needed since invitations were already delivered. The rehearsal dinner restaurant provided an 80% refund of $4,500. By the end of the day, I had canceled every single aspect of Jessica's wedding and secured refunds totaling approximately $67,000 of the original $80,000. But I wasn't finished yet. At 6 p.m. I called Jessica directly. Jessica, I want you to know that I've just finished canceling your wedding. You did what? I canceled the venue, the caterer, the photographer, the florist, the band, the cake, and everything else. Your wedding is officially canceled. Mom, you can't do that. You can't cancel my wedding. I didn't cancel your wedding, Jessica. I canceled the $80,000 party that I paid for and was uninvited from. If you want to get married on October 14th, you're welcome to do so. You just need to find your own venue, catering, and vendors. Mom, this is insane. You're ruining my life. No, Jessica. You ruined your relationship with your mother and now you're facing the consequences. But Mom, all of David's family is flying in. We sent out 150 invitations. That sounds like a problem you and Patricia should solve together. Mom, please. I'm begging you. Don't do this. Jessica, you had 48 hours to make this right. You chose not to. I'll invite you. I'll invite you to the wedding. It's too late, Jessica. The vendors are all canceled. There is no more wedding to invite me to. There was sobbing on the other end of the phone. Mom, I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. I made a mistake. Yes, you did. And now you get to live with the consequences. But Mom, I love you. Jessica, if you loved me, you wouldn't have uninvited me from your wedding by email after I spent my life savings on it. I hung up the phone and immediately called Patricia Hartwell. Patricia, I wanted to let you know that I've just finished canceling all the wedding vendors. You did what? I canceled everything. The venue, the caterer, the flowers, the photographer, everything. Margaret, you're insane. You've destroyed your daughter's wedding. No, Patricia. You destroyed my relationship with my daughter and now everyone gets to live with the consequences. This is vindictive and cruel. What's vindictive and cruel is manipulating my daughter into thinking her mother isn't good enough for your social circle, and then convincing her to uninvite me from the wedding I paid for. Margaret, we can fix this. We can find new vendors. Patricia, you have 11 days and you need $80,000. Good luck with that. Margaret, please. Think about Jessica. I have been thinking about Jessica for 18 months while I paid for her dream wedding. Now it's time for Jessica to think about the consequences of her choices. You're going to regret this. Patricia, the only thing I regret is not standing up for myself sooner. You had no idea what was coming. I hung up on Patricia and immediately felt a sense of relief I hadn't experienced in months. For 18 months I had been accommodating, flexible, and generous. I had allowed myself to be walked over and disrespected. But no more. My phone started ringing immediately, first Jessica, then David, then Patricia again. I let every call go to voicemail. But the most satisfying call came an hour later from my sister Helen. Margaret, Jessica just called me crying hysterically. She said you canceled her entire wedding. That's correct. Good for you. I'm so proud of you for finally standing up for yourself. Helen, I feel terrible that it came to this, but I couldn't let them treat me like a doormat anymore. Margaret, you gave her every opportunity to make this right. She chose Patricia over you and now she gets to live with that choice. The vendors were surprisingly supportive. Most of them refunded the full amount when I explained what happened. Of course they were supportive. What Jessica did is unconscionable. No mother should be treated like that. But Helen wasn't finished. Margaret, Jessica also asked me to call you and beg you to fix this. And what did you tell her? I told her that she made her bed and now she gets to lie in it. Over the next 48 hours, my phone was flooded with calls, texts, and voicemails from both families trying to convince me to fix the situation. The messages ranged from desperate pleading to angry accusations. From Jessica, Mom, please. I'll do anything. I'll publicly apologize. I'll pay you back. Please don't let my wedding day be ruined. Mom, I can't afford to replace everything. You know David and I don't have that kind of money. Mom, I'm pregnant. I didn't want to tell you like this, but I'm pregnant and I need this wedding to happen. The pregnancy announcement was clearly a desperate manipulation tactic and I didn't fall for it. From David. Mrs. Richardson, I know Jessica made a mistake, but please don't punish our entire future over one bad decision. Mrs. Richardson, my whole family has already traveled here from California. They spent thousands on flights and hotels. From Patricia. Margaret, I'll pay for half of everything if you can get the vendors back. Margaret, you're destroying an innocent young couple's happiness out of spite. Margaret, I'm begging you. I'll publicly apologize for interfering. Just please fix this. But the most interesting message came from David's father, Richard. Margaret, I understand why you're angry, but we need to find a solution. What would it take for you to help us fix this? I decided to respond to Richard since he was the only one who seemed to understand that this situation required actual negotiation rather than just begging. Richard, I appreciate that you understand the gravity of this situation. Here's what it would take. Jessica needs to write me a formal public apology acknowledging that she was wrong to uninvite me and explaining how she plans to ensure this never happens again. Patricia needs to do the same. And Jessica needs to pay me back the full $80,000 before I would even consider helping to find replacement vendors. Margaret, they don't have $80,000. You know that. Then they should have thought of that before insulting and excluding me. What if they paid you back over time? Richard, I'm not a bank. I'm a mother who was disrespected and humiliated by her own daughter. I'm not interested in payment plans or apologies that are only motivated by desperation. So there's nothing we can do? You can learn from this experience and make sure your family treats people with respect in the future. But Richard surprised me with his next question. Margaret, what if we gave you something more valuable than money? What do you mean? What if Patricia publicly admitted that she was wrong and that you were an excellent mother who deserved respect? What if she wrote a letter to all the wedding guests explaining that the wedding was cancelled because of her interference and manipulation? Now that was interesting. Patricia's public humiliation would be far more satisfying than getting my money back. Richard, you have my attention. What exactly are you proposing? Patricia writes a letter taking full responsibility for the wedding cancellation. She admits that she inappropriately interfered in the wedding planning and convinced Jessica to exclude you. She sends this letter to every single person who was invited to the wedding. And Jessica? Jessica also writes a public apology acknowledging her mistake and explaining that she chose Patricia's opinion over her relationship with her mother. Richard, that's an interesting proposal, but it doesn't solve the immediate problem of the cancelled wedding. What if we covered the cost of a smaller, more intimate wedding for Jessica and David? Nothing fancy, maybe 50 people at a nice restaurant. Patricia and I would pay for it and you would be the honored guest. I considered this for a moment. The idea of Patricia having to publicly humiliate herself was appealing, but I wasn't sure I wanted to help facilitate any wedding at this point. Richard, I appreciate the offer, but I think Jessica needs to learn that actions have consequences. Maybe she and David should elope and have a proper wedding when they can afford to pay for it themselves. Margaret, please. I know my family screwed this up, but don't let Patricia's mistakes destroy Jessica's future. Richard, Patricia didn't make this decision alone. Jessica chose to uninvite me. Jessica chose Patricia's opinion over mine. Jessica sent me that cruel email. Patricia may have influenced her, but Jessica made the final decision. You're right. They both made terrible mistakes. But surely there's a way to resolve this that doesn't involve destroying their wedding day? I thought about it for a moment. Part of me wanted to stand firm and let them deal with the consequences. But another part of me, the part that still loved my daughter despite everything, was beginning to consider whether there might be a path forward. Richard, here's what I'm willing to consider. If Jessica and Patricia both write public apologies that are sent to every wedding guest, and if they both agree to attend family therapy with me to address the underlying issues, then I might be willing to help them find replacement vendors for a much smaller, simpler wedding. What kind of budget are we talking about? $15,000 maximum. Backyard ceremony, casual reception, immediate family only. Margaret, that's a huge step down from what you had planned. Richard, that's the consequence of treating me with disrespect. If Jessica wanted the $80,000 wedding, she should have treated me with respect. Let me talk to everyone and see if they're willing to agree to your terms. But before Richard could get back to me, I received a phone call that changed everything. At 9 p.m. on Friday night, I received a call from an unknown number. When I answered, I heard a young woman's voice that I didn't recognize. Mrs. Richardson? This is Emma Walsh. I work at Meadowbrook Country Club as an event coordinator. Hi Emma. How can I help you? Mrs. Richardson, I probably shouldn't be calling you, but I felt like you needed to know something about your daughter's wedding. What do you mean? Well, after you canceled the event today, Jessica and Patricia came to the club to see if there was any way to reinstate the reservation. And, Mrs. Richardson, they told my manager that you had been behaving erratically and that you canceled the wedding during a mental health crisis. They said you weren't thinking clearly and that the family was trying to get you the help you needed. My blood ran cold. They said what? They claimed that you were having some kind of breakdown and that's why you canceled everything. They asked if we would consider honoring the original reservation if the family could prove that you weren't competent when you made the cancellation. Emma, why are you telling me this? Because I was in the room during your cancellation call, and you sounded completely rational and composed. You explained the situation clearly and made a reasonable business decision. There was nothing erratic or concerning about your behavior. Thank you for telling me this, Emma. Mrs. Richardson, there's more. They also said they were going to try to get a lawyer to declare your cancellations invalid based on mental incapacity. I was furious. Not only had Jessica and Patricia humiliated me and excluded me from the wedding, but now they were trying to paint me as mentally unstable to get out of the consequences. Emma, did they succeed in reinstating the reservation? Well, my manager told them that your cancellation was valid and that we couldn't reverse it without your written consent. But Mrs. Richardson, I thought you should know what they're saying about you. I appreciate this information more than you know. After I hung up with Emma, I immediately called Michael Chin. Michael, I need to see you first thing Monday morning. Jessica and Patricia are now claiming that I'm mentally incompetent and trying to get my vendor cancellations declared invalid. Margaret, that's actually good news for us. How is that good news? Because now we have evidence of additional bad faith behavior. They're not just trying to exclude you from the wedding, they're trying to destroy your reputation and credibility. This gives us grounds for a much stronger legal response. What do you mean? We can sue for defamation in addition to the financial issues. If they're telling vendors and other people that you're mentally incompetent, that's damaging to your reputation and your career as a financial advisor. Michael, I don't want to sue my daughter. Margaret, your daughter is trying to destroy your reputation to get out of the consequences of her actions. At what point do you start protecting yourself? I spent the weekend thinking about this latest development. Jessica wasn't just trying to have her wedding without me, she was actively trying to paint me as mentally unstable to justify her behavior. On Sunday morning, I received a text message from Jessica. Mom, I know you're going through a difficult time and I want you to know that we're here to support you. David found a therapist who specializes in helping families through crisis situations. I think it would be good for both of us. The manipulation was breathtaking. She was now trying to convince me that I was the one who needed therapy, when she was the one who had betrayed and excluded me. I responded, Jessica, I'm not going through a difficult time. I'm going through the consequences of your decision to uninvite me from the wedding I paid for. The only crisis here is your lack of respect for your mother. Her response was immediate. Mom, please don't make this harder than it needs to be. I know you're hurting, but canceling my wedding was an extreme reaction. Let us help you work through this. She was still trying to make me the problem. Even after everything, she couldn't acknowledge that her actions were wrong. That's when I decided that I was done trying to salvage our relationship. Jessica had made her choice and now I was going to make mine. On Monday morning, I met with Michael Chin to plan my response to Jessica and Patricia's latest tactics. Michael, I want to send a cease and desist letter to both Jessica and Patricia. I want them to stop telling people that I'm mentally incompetent. We can definitely do that. But Margaret, I think you should consider a more comprehensive approach. What do you mean? You have grounds for a defamation lawsuit. They're making false statements about your mental health to third parties, which is damaging to your reputation. As a financial advisor, your professional credibility is essential to your livelihood. I don't want to sue my daughter, Michael. Then let's start with a strong cease and desist letter that makes it clear you're prepared to take legal action if necessary. Michael drafted a devastating letter that was sent to both Jessica and Patricia. Cease and desist defamatory statements. To Jessica Richardson and Patricia Hartwell. Our client has been informed that you are making false and defamatory statements about her mental health and competency to third parties, including wedding vendors and family members. Specific defamatory statements include claiming that Margaret Richardson canceled wedding vendors due to a mental health crisis, suggesting that Richardson was not competent when making business decisions, and implying that Richardson needs mental health intervention. These statements are false, malicious, and damaging to our client's personal and professional reputation. You must immediately cease making any statements about Richardson's mental health or competency. You must also contact any third parties to whom you have made such statements and retract them. Failure to comply will result in a defamation lawsuit seeking monetary damages and injunctive relief. You have 48 hours to comply with this demand. But I wasn't finished. I also decided to send my own personal message to Jessica. Jessica, I have learned that you and Patricia are telling people that I canceled your wedding due to a mental health crisis. This is false and deeply hurtful. I canceled your wedding because you uninvited me from an event I paid $80,000 for. That was a rational business decision made by a competent adult who was tired of being disrespected. If you continue to spread false information about my mental health, I will take legal action to protect my reputation. I gave you life, love, and $80,000 for your dream wedding. In return, you gave me humiliation and betrayal. I think we're done here. Your mother, who is perfectly sane. I also sent a message to Patricia. Patricia, I understand that you're desperate to fix the situation you created, but spreading lies about my mental health is not the solution. You manipulated my daughter into thinking I wasn't good enough for your family, and now you're trying to manipulate the situation by claiming I'm mentally incompetent. So, immediately. You had no idea what was coming when you started this war, and you have no idea what's coming next if you continue. Margaret. The responses came quickly. First from Jessica. Mom, I wasn't trying to hurt you. I was just trying to explain to the vendors why you would cancel my wedding. I thought maybe you were overwhelmed. I responded, Jessica, I canceled your wedding because you uninvited me. That's not being overwhelmed, that's having self-respect. Then from Patricia. Margaret, I apologize if my words were misinterpreted. I was simply trying to find a solution that would work for everyone. I responded, Patricia, your solution is to paint me as mentally unstable so you can get what you want. That's not a misinterpretation, that's character assassination. But the most satisfying response came from David's father, Richard. Margaret, I had no idea that Patricia and Jessica were saying those things about you. That's completely unacceptable. I want to formally apologize on behalf of my family. Finally, someone in their family had some sense. 3 days later, I received a phone call that would provide the perfect ending to this entire saga. It was from Emma at Meadowbrook Country Club. Mrs. Richardson, I have some interesting news for you. What's that, Emma? Well, we had another bride cancel her wedding for November 4th, 3 weeks from now. It's the same package you had booked, and my manager asked me to call you first to see if you'd be interested in rebooking. Emma, I don't have a daughter getting married anymore. Actually, Mrs. Richardson, my manager had an interesting idea. What if you used the reservation for a different kind of celebration? What do you mean? What if you threw a party for yourself? A celebration of your independence, your career success, your new life without ungrateful family members? The idea was brilliant. I could use the same venue with some of the same vendors to throw myself a celebration that actually honored me instead of excluding me. Emma, that's a fascinating idea. What would something like that cost? Well, since it's short notice and we're trying to fill the date, we could do it for $15,000. That would include the venue, basic catering for 50 people, and standard decorations. Let me think about it. But I didn't need to think very long. By the time I hung up the phone, I knew exactly what I wanted to do. I called my sister Helen. Helen, how would you like to attend the party of the year? What are you talking about? I'm going to throw myself a celebration party. Same venue where Jessica's wedding was supposed to be, but instead of celebrating her marriage, we're going to celebrate my liberation from toxic family members. Margaret, that's brilliant. What's the occasion? We're celebrating my 52nd birthday, my successful career, my newfound self-respect, and my $67,000 in vendor refunds. I love it. Who are you going to invite? Everyone who actually supports me. You, Diana, my coworkers, my real friends, people who would never uninvite me from my own party. Helen was cackling with laughter. Margaret, this is perfect revenge. You're going to have a beautiful party at the same venue where Jessica was supposed to get married. And Helen, I'm going to invite Jessica. You're what? I'm going to send Jessica a formal invitation to my celebration party. I want her to see what it looks like when someone actually appreciates my generosity. Margaret, you are diabolical and I love it. I immediately called Meadowbrook Country Club back. Emma, I want to book the November 4th celebration. Wonderful. What kind of event are we planning? An independence celebration for a successful woman who just learned the value of self-respect. I love it. We'll make it absolutely perfect. Next, I called several of the vendors who had refunded my money. The photographer, James Morrison, was thrilled to photograph my celebration at a discounted rate. Mrs. Richardson, I would be honored to document your special day. The florist was equally enthusiastic about creating arrangements that celebrated my independence rather than someone else's marriage. Even the band was available and offered to play at a reduced rate. Mrs. Richardson, we want to be part of your celebration. It's not often we get to play for someone who truly deserves to be honored. But the most important call was to a custom invitation designer. I need very elegant invitations for a very special celebration, I told her. What's the occasion? I'm celebrating my liberation from ungrateful family members and my decision to prioritize people who actually respect me. That sounds like the best kind of celebration. What do you want the invitations to say? I dictated the invitation text. Margaret Richardson cordially invites you to celebrate independence, self-respect, and new beginnings. November 4th, 2023. Meadowbrook Country Club. 6 p.m. Join me as I celebrate the joy of surrounding myself with people who value and appreciate me. Cocktails, dinner, and dancing. RSVP by October 28th. And then I added a special note for Jessica's invitation. Jessica, you're invited to see what it looks like when someone throws a party for people who actually want to be there. This celebration is funded by the $67,000 in vendor refunds I received after canceling your wedding. Come see how much fun a party can be when the host is actually respected by the guests. Your mother. I sent invitations to 45 people. My sister, my coworkers, my real friends, my neighbors, even some of the wedding vendors who had been so supportive during the cancellation process. And yes, I sent one to Jessica. The party was absolutely perfect. 43 people attended, everyone except Jessica and Patricia, who obviously didn't show up. But David's father Richard did attend, which surprised everyone. Mrs. Richardson, Richard said when he arrived, I wanted to come tonight to publicly apologize for my family's behavior and to celebrate a woman who deserves much better treatment than she received. The evening was magical. The venue was decorated in gold and silver, elegant colors that celebrated success and sophistication. The menu featured all my favorite foods instead of catering to other people's preferences. The band played music I actually enjoyed rather than trying to appeal to multiple generations. But the best part was the speech I gave halfway through the evening. Thank you all for being here tonight to celebrate something that's been a long time coming, my decision to prioritize people who actually value me. I've also started a small side business as a wedding planning consultant, specifically helping mothers navigate difficult family dynamics during wedding planning. The irony isn't lost on me, but it turns out that my experience has made me uniquely qualified to help other women avoid the mistakes I made. Jessica has tried to reach out several times, but our conversations are brief and superficial. She sends birthday cards and holiday texts, but she's never acknowledged the deeper issues that led to our estrangement. Until she's willing to have an honest conversation about why she chose Patricia over me, we'll never have a real relationship again. Patricia, on the other hand, has tried to paint herself as the victim in our social circle. She tells people that I overreacted and destroyed my own daughter's happiness. But most people who know the full story understand that a mother being uninvited from a wedding she paid for is unconscionable. David's father Richard has become an unexpected friend. He sends me updates about Jessica and David's life, and he's repeatedly apologized for his family's behavior. He recently told me that Patricia regrets her actions but is too proud to admit it directly. The most satisfying development came 3 months ago when I learned that Patricia and Richard had to pay for Jessica and David's down payment on their apartment because the young couple was still struggling financially after losing their wedding funds. But you know what? I don't regret any of it. I learned that I'm stronger than I thought, that my self-respect is non-negotiable, and that some relationships aren't worth preserving if they require you to accept disrespect. I learned that the people who matter will support you when you stand up for yourself, And the people who don't matter will try to convince you that you're wrong for having standards. Most importantly, I learned that the best revenge isn't getting even, it's living well and surrounding yourself with people who actually value you. If I could go back and do it again, would I change anything? Honestly, no. Yes, I'm sad that my relationship with Jessica may never fully recover. Yes, I wish she had chosen differently. Yes, I would have preferred to celebrate her wedding rather than my independence. But Jessica taught me something valuable. You can't love someone into respecting you, and you can't sacrifice your way into being valued. For 18 months, I tried to buy Jessica's love and appreciation with an $80,000 wedding. I accommodated every demand, accepted every slight, and ignored every red flag because I thought that's what a good mother does. But what I learned is that a good mother also teaches her children that actions have consequences, that respect is earned, and that love without respect is just manipulation. Jessica had no idea what was coming when she sent me that email uninviting me from her wedding. She thought she could take my money, exclude me from the celebration, and face no consequences. She was wrong. And while our relationship may never be the same, I've never been happier with who I am and how I choose to live my life. Sometimes the best thing you can do for someone you love is to stop accepting their disrespect. Sometimes the greatest gift you can give someone is the consequence of their actions. Jessica may never thank me for canceling her wedding, but someday she might thank me for teaching her that her mother has value, dignity, and self-respect. And if she doesn't, well, that's her loss. Because I finally learned that I'm worth more than any relationship that requires me to diminish myself. And that knowledge, that's worth way more than $80,000.